Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivadadhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai. Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so, oh Krishna. So So we're reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, 4th canto, chapter 6, verse 35. Okay?
So that everyone can hear you online better.
No, but okay.
Good.
It's necessary?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Śrimad Bhāgavatam, canto 4, chapter 6, verse 35, and actually verse 36 as well. So I guess we'll chant the first one responsively, and then we'll just read through the second one. We do the word for word first? Whatever I want? Okay. Vidya tapo yoga patam ashtitam tamadishvaram charantam vishvasuhridam vatsalyalokamangalam Vidya tapo yoga patam ashtitam tamadishvaram charantam vishvasuhridam vatsalyalokamangalam. Anyone want to chant it?
Vidya tapo yoga padam.
Vidya tapo yoga patam ashitam tamadishvaram charantam vishvasuhridam vatsalyalokamangalam.
Vidya tapo yoga padam. Astitam kamadishvaram. Charantam vishvasurinam. Vatsalyalokamangalam.
Any Vaishnavis?
Vidya
Vidyatapo yoga patam ashtitam tamadishvaram charantam vishvasuhridam.
Vatsalyalokamangalam.
Okay, vidya, knowledge, tapa, austerity, yoga patam, the path of devotional service, ashtitam, situated, tam, him, Lord Shiva, adhishwaram, the master of the senses, chirantam, performing austerity, etc. Vishva Suhridam, the friend of the whole world. Vatsalyat, out of full affection. Lokamangalam, auspicious for everyone. Translation: the demigods saw Lord Shiva situated in his perfection as the master of the senses, knowledge, fruit of activities, and the path of achieving perfection. He was a friend of the entire world, and by virtue of his full affection for everyone, he was very auspicious. Do we repeat the verse? Yeah? Yes? Okay. Divyangi says yes. Okay, the demigods saw Lord Shiva situated in his perfection as the master of the senses, knowledge, fruit of activities, and the path of achieving perfection. He was the friend of the entire world. And by virtue of his full affection for everyone, he was very auspicious. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shiva is full of wisdom and tapasya, austerity. One who knows the modes of work is understood to be situated on the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. Lord Shiva is described here as Adhishvara. Ishvara means controller, and Adishwar means particularly controller of the senses. Generally, our materially contaminated senses are apt to engage in sense gratificatory activities. But when a person is elevated by wisdom and austerity, the senses then become purified, and they become engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the emblem of such perfection, and therefore, in the scriptures it is said, Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva, by his actions within this material world, teaches all conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service 24 hours a day. Therefore, he is described here as Lokamangala, good fortune personified for all conditioned souls. We were scheduled for the second verse too, 36, so I'll just read that, the Sanskrit translation and purport on my own. Lingam cha tapasabishtam vashmadanda jatajinam angena sandhya brarucha chandralekam cha bibratam. He was seated on a deerskin and was practicing all forms of austerity. Because his body was smeared with ashes, he looked like an evening cloud. On his hair was the sign of a half moon, a symbolic representation. Purport. Lord Shiva's symptoms of austerity are not exactly those of a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva is certainly the number one Vaishnava, but he exhibits a feature for a particular class of men who cannot follow the Vaishnava principles. The Shaivites, the devotees of Lord Shiva, generally dress like Lord Shiva, and sometimes they indulge in smoking and taking intoxicants. Such practices are never accepted by the followers of Vaishnava rituals. Om Gyanatimurandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumlitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pucharini Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paschatishataya. Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Shri Chaitanya Padam Boja Madhupebhyo Namo Namah Katanchidashraya Desham Swapi Tad Ganda Bhagavavet. Let me repeatedly offer my respectful obeisances unto the be-like devotee associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who always tastes the honey emanating from his lotus feet. As whoever somehow takes shelter of these devotees, be he even a non-devotee similar to a dog, can by their grace experience the aroma of that lotus flower. Jai. Shri Chaitanya Prasadena Tad Rupasya Vinirnaya Balopi Kurute Shastram Krishna Vraja Vilasinaha. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Lord Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Vraja, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures. Need a little extra prayer. Because I'm like a non-devotee similar to a dog or a foolish child, so I have to add these verses in. So I'm speaking in front of senior Vaishnavas, so if you can please give me your blessings, all the devotees, that we can speak something nicely about Krishna. Thank you. So I'd like to go back and actually reread the first purport. I have it here. You can read along if you like. If not, no big deal. But it was short, so I want to reread it. Prabhupada says, Lord Shiva is full of wisdom and tapasya, austerity. One who knows the modes of work is understood to be situated on the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. This is a really interesting statement. Not really what I want to speak on right now, but I just wanted to point it out. Everything Prabhupada says is so full of everything on so many levels. Just like in the CC, it says Krishna Tulya Bhagavat Vibhu Sarvashwari Prati Shloki Prati Akshari Nana Artha Koi, that Krishna is Vibhu. Krishna Tulya Bhagavat. Krishna is the same as the Bhagavatam. Vibhu Sarvashwari. He's Vibhu, just like Krishna is Vibhu, which is supreme. Bhagavat is also supreme. And Prati Shloke Prati Akshari Nana Artha Koi, that every shloka, every syllable even, is full of various meanings. So I was looking at this just one statement here. Prabhupada says, one cannot serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead unless one has achieved full perfectional knowledge in the ways and means of performing devotional service. That can be understood on so many different levels, actually. I was just appreciating Prabhupada's every sentence is a sutra, can be impact so much. In fact, I think there's one pastime with Srila Prabhupada. I can't remember exactly who was asking it. In my mind, I think it's Pradumna. Maybe someone knows. Where someone's saying, Prabhupada, what book are you going to work on next? And he was thinking, maybe Bhagavad Gita. Do you know this, Ramar Guru? He says, maybe Bhagavad Gita. And he said, Prabhupada, you've done so many Bhagavad Gitas. And Prabhupada, you've already done Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada says, I could do so many Bhagavad Gitas. You know? So it goes to show that just this one verse can be explained in so many different ways. And Prabhupada is giving an example of that. And so the same goes for Prabhupada's purports. The words of the pure devotee are the same as the Bhagavatam. Anyway, moving on. Prabhupada says in that purport, Lord Shiva is described here as Adishwar. Ishwar means controller, and Adishwar means particularly controller of the senses. Is this the proper volume? This is okay? It's not too loud? It's like, all right. Generally, our materially contaminated senses are apt to engage in sense gratificatory activities. But when a person is elevated by wisdom and austerity, the senses become purified, and they become engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the emblem of such perfection, and therefore in the scriptures it is said, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava. Lord Shiva, by his actions within this material world, teaches all conditioned souls how to engage in devotional service 24 hours a day. Therefore, he is described here as Lokamangala, good fortune personified for all conditioned souls. So since he's a Vaishnava, his standard is 24 hours a day engaged in devotional service. This is the mentality of a Vaishnava. They can't but be absorbed in Radha and Krishna 24 hours a day. In fact, they feel there's not enough time to glorify Radha and Krishna properly, to chant their names, to perform all the services they want to perform for their pleasure. This is the mark of a devotee, actually. And this standard is set by Rupa Goswami himself in Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Instruction. And this is I was reflecting, this verse 8, such an important verse, because Rupa Goswami entitles this book Upadesh Amrita, the nectar of instruction. Is just 11 verses. And what is Amrita? What is nectar? It's like, it's condensed, it's juicy, it's like Sara, it's the essence, and he all in these 11 verses says, this is the essence of all instruction. And then in this verse, 8th verse, he says at the end, Kalam Nayad Akilam It Upadesha Saram, that this is the Saram, which means essence of all Upadesh. So of all of those 11 verses, this is the most important one. And those verses happen to be the nectar of all instruction. So everything's just condensed down into this one verse. This verse is devotional service. We have one verse. You could say it could be this verse. So Tanama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyoja Tishtan Raje Tad Anuragi Jananagami Kalam Nayed Akilam Ityupadesha Saram. So since Prabhupada was mentioning that Mahadev is engaging in devotional service 24 hours a day, I thought to read this verse. He says, the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Braj, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. This is such a beautiful verse. So I thought we could read Srila Prabhupada's purport and think about how actually Lord Shiva, he's exemplifying these qualities of a Vaishnava. The purport's not so long. I know it's a lot of reading, but bear with me, it's really nice. Prabhupada says, since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of the past. These impressions sometimes come into contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita 8.6, it is said, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tam evaiti konteya sadatat bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasad. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises, Tishtan Vraje. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Rajabhumi. Rajabhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. 1 krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Krishnam smaram janam chasya, preshtam nija samihitam tattat katha, ratas chaso kuryat vasam vraje sada. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Vraja and always engage in Krishnam smaran janam chasya preshtam, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates. By following the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Seva sadhaku rupena siddha rupena chatrahi tadbhava lipsana karya braja lokana sarata. In the transcendental realm of Vraja, Vrajadam, one should serve the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, with a feeling similar to that of his associates. And one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is a siddha purusha or a spiritually perfect soul. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, quality, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and passes time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. In the neophyte stage, this is called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smarana Vashta, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi, or spiritual trance. After smarana dasha, or samadhi, has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. This is called sampati dasha, the perfection of life. Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of Scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna, even without following the regulative principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in the Shanta Rasa when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the Dasya Rasa, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitraka, Patraka, or Raktaka. In the friendly Sakya Rasa, one can become a friend like Baladev, Sridham, or Sudama. In the Vatsalya Rasa, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And in the Madhurya Rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends, such as Lalita and her serving maids, Manjaris, like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service. Jai Prabhupada. So, I was reading this and thinking about Lord Shiva and how it's described in the verse that he's engaged in 24 hours a day. So what does a devotee do? Explained by Rupa Goswami. He's doing Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu. He's glorifying the Nam, Rupa, Charita, Adi, like glories, etc. He's doing Sukirtan. He's doing sweet, nice kirtan of those things. And Smrityo, he's remembering also. So he's glorifying the name, qualities, glories he's remembering. And also he's doing Tishtan Vrajitad Anuragi Jananugam. He's staying in Vraj and he's following the footsteps of Krishna's devotees. So according to Rupa Goswami, this is what a devotee does. So I was thinking it's easy to understand Lord Shiva. He's wrapped in meditation. He's remembering Krishna's form, qualities, activities. He's chanting his glories. In fact, there's a verse from OCC. He says, This is 6th chapter, Adi CC. Krishna preme unmata vivala digambar Krishna guna lilai gai nache nirantar. That intoxicated by ecstatic love for Lord Krishna, he becomes overwhelmed, Lord Shiva, and incessantly dances without clothing and sings about Lord Krishna's qualities and pastimes. So we're familiar with how Lord Shiva is glorifying Krishna in this way. We hear lots of stories. There's a story about how he's madly dancing in ecstasy, glorifying Lord Gaura. But when reading this purport, I was thinking that how is it that Lord Shiva follows in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan? He proclaims that he's a devotee of Krishna. And according to Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, devotees of Krishna follow in the footsteps of a particular resident of Vrindavan. So how does he follow the residents of Vrindavan? Does anybody know? Oh, Ramroy knows. As Gopeshwar. There's a pastime of Gopeshwar Mahadev. So I want to tell that pastime to illustrate how he follows in the footsteps of the residents of Lord Vrindavan. So once a time, Lord Shiva, he was in deep meditation while on Mount Kailash, and he heard the sweet melody of Krishna's flute. So he was absorbed in this extraordinary sound. And he went into even deeper samadhi, and he was transported to the transcendental abode of Vrindavan. By the way, this story is from Garga Samhita. So when Lord Shiva entered that sacred realm, he saw Krishna as Gopinath preparing for his Rasa Leela dance. And Shiva, with great excitement, he decided to enter. He desired to enter. But when he tried to enter the Ras Mandal near Vamshivat, he was stopped by Yogamaya, who is an expansion of Radharani. And Yogamaya said, if you want to take part in Rasa Leela, you have to first take permission from Vrinda Devi. And so Yogamaya took Lord Shiva to see Vrinda, who instructed him that because you're in a male form, you can't take part in the Rasa dance. Only females, gopis, are allowed to participate in this most exclusive pastime. The Lord Krishna is Purusha, and he alone enjoys the Rasa dance with Prakriti, the females, the gopis, expansions of Radharani. So since Mahadev was in a male form, naturally he had this attitude of Purusha, unlike the gopis who have pure devotional attitude of being perpetually enjoyed by the supreme enjoyer, Krishna. So she was begging Vrinda Devi, what can I do to get the form of a gopi? I want to enter into the Rasa Leela. So Vrinda Devi, taking Lord Shiva, taking him and acting as his guru, she knew exactly what to do. She brought him to Mansarovar, where she told him to bathe. And dipping into those waters, Shiva mysteriously emerged in the form of a beautiful gopi, adorned with jewelry and mascara, dressed in an attractive sari. And Vrinda Devi then took Lord Shiva in that beautiful gopi form to a corner of the Rasa Leela, where he or she stood and sincerely prayed to Radha and Krishna for bhakti. So when Radha and Krishna and the gopis are dancing in the moonlit forest, a really pleasing, beautiful, devotional atmosphere is created. And the mood of divine love needs such a provocative ambience. So on this occasion, Shiva was able to sneak in his gopi form, seemingly undetected, and he was blissfully dancing with Krishna, just as the other gopis were doing. He was in complete ecstasy. And after some time, Krishna took a short break. And while resting, he said, I'm not getting as much enjoyment as I was before. And he told the gopis, it seems there's a man in our midst, some strange man. And Krishna, so he requested Lalita Devi, could you please look and see if there's any man here? And Lalita Devi, she started checking every gopi, but she couldn't see any man present. She went back to Krishna and she told him, as far as I could see, there's no man here. But there was a new and very attractive gopi with 3 eyes. Please bring that gopi to me, Krishna said. And when he saw the 3-eyed gopi, he erupted into laughter. And he was questioning Lord Shiva in his gopi form. He said, "Oh, Bholinath," which means Lord of Simple People. What are you doing here? Krishna was thoroughly delighted to see Shiva as a gopi, and he just kept laughing and laughing at the sight of him. The epitome of masculinity, Lord Shiva, manifest as a female. Then the Lord calmed down, Krishna calmed down, and he told Shiva, "Oh, Gopishwar, Lord of the gopis, actually I'm very happy to see you in the form of a gopi. And I give you the blessing that all the other gopis will offer you their respect and their worship." And after hearing this, Radharani, whose contrary nature is very pleasing to Krishna, she became angry and she told him, "Who is this strange new gopi? You've never called me Gopishwar before, but now you're calling this unknown girl Gopishwar and offering her your benedictions? This is a great insult. I now immediately want to leave you and this whole rasa dance." The Lord Krishna, he caught Radharani's hand. He said, "Don't be upset. This new gopi is actually Shiva Mahadev in disguise. He's entered Ras Mandal to enjoy loving exchanges with us. I hereby offer Gopishwar the position of Digpal, the sacred protector of Sri Vrindavan Dham and Rasalila. All of you should daily worship Sri Gopishwar to achieve the highest perfection of pure Prema Bhakti." Directing his attention to Lord Shiva, Krishna told him, "Now that you've taken part in Rasalila, I have a very important service for you. As Digpal for Vrindavan, you will guide all aspiring devotees to become free from their false ego and their male purusha, or enjoying spirit. Your unique service is to be stationed at the gateway of Vrindavan as a transcendental security guard for the rasa dance. Many unqualified yogis, pseudo-devotees, and mental speculators will want to join Rasalila, but you must protect its purity and sanctity. Such ineligible persons may be able to physically enter the holy land of Vrindavan in India, but only on an external level. Your service will be to allow selfless, pure devotees to mystically enter spiritual Vrindavan." Krishna further told Lord Shiva, "Only devotees who have no tinge of personal enjoyment, who are completely free from false ego, and who are ready to serve in all circumstances can be allowed to enter the circle of the Rasa Lila." Lord Shiva happily accepted this service and benediction, and as the topmost Vaishnava, his desire is to perpetually assist all variety of devotees in achieving their particular eternal perfection in relation to Radha and Krishna. So Gopishwar temple is there in Braj, in Vrindavan, and devotees make a habit of going there first when they go to the Dham to pray for the blessings of Lord Shiva to enter the Dham properly. If you go there at the right time in the morning, it's before they dress him up in his Gopi Vesh, the linga's still there, and there's a guy right outside. You bring a pail, and he'll fill it up with, I don't know what they call it. It's a mixture of yogurt, panchamrit, yeah. Yogurt and sugar and honey and all kinds of good stuff. And you take that and you can bathe the linga with that panchamrit. So I used to like to go to do that in Vrindavan. It's a very nice experience. And then they dress the linga up as a gopi, because Lord Shiva is eternally residing in Vrindavan in the form of Gopishwar Mahadev. Actually, what was it? Yesterday was Advaitacharya's appearance day. And I was hearing that all of the mahants from the different temples in Vrindavan, on Advaitacharya's appearance day, they go to Gopeshwar Mahadev temple. And they have a big festival there because Advaitacharya is Sadashiva. But more specifically in Raj, they worship him as Gopeshwar Mahadev. So I just wanted to share all of this. I was wondering if anybody had anything to add, any comments, questions.
Thank you, Prabhu. I often wonder, because you told this nice pastime of Krishna.
Can I give you this?
Okay.
I can't hear you so well.
I can speak loud.
No, it's okay.
I can be loud. this pastime of Krishna being kind of not disturbed, but he couldn't experience this bliss because there was somebody. And also we know Lord Chaitanya,
Yeah.
so the same similar pastime. So I'm wondering sometimes we try to relish the holy name, but we also quite inclusive in our bhajan in a sense. So we try to
Quite
include
inclusive.
everyone, and
Yeah.
in a sense this increases our bliss. But these people are, some of them are, almost all of them, they're non-devotees. Some
Yeah.
are devotees, but definitely not on this high level. So sometimes it sounds like contradiction.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile this?
Do you want this? So, okay. I'm not really qualified to answer the questions of the Vaishnavas, but I can offer some thoughts. One thing is that I remember hearing that Krishna's Rasa Leelas, they're like different levels of intimacy. There's one rasa called the Panchayati rasa, and the Panchayat is it's like the house in the village where everyone comes together. So in the Panchayati rasa, there's all the different gopis there. You've got the Rishichari gopis, the Munyachari gopis. You've got the gopis that were fish that were attracted to Matsya. And Matsya is like, I'm sorry, I can't fulfill your desires. I have to go and save the Vedas. But in another birth, you can come. And the sages of Dandakaranya, they're attracted to Lord Ram. So it's like anyone and everyone can come. And that's a certain like level of intimacy, obviously. And then there's other more intimate rasa leelas where it's just the Ashtasakis and the Ashtamanjaris with Krishna at Chandra Sarovar, and it's very much more intimate. And so I think that there's a time and place for everything. Definitely, we've heard it described before that the most powerful anga of devotional service is Maha Harinam Sankirtan, where we get many, many people together to chant the holy names, and this will create a revolution in consciousness. And at the same time, you can subtly feel the kirtan being affected, or the sangha being affected, depending on the individuals that come into that sangha, into that kirtan. And there's so many different conceptions, so many different desires, things people want to get out of devotional service, and that can kind of be felt. So I think that we should do both. It's like kirtan is our bhajan, right? Srila Prabhupada said that. So we're doing kirtan out on the streets, and there's a particular purpose to try to attract the Kali Yuga people to the holy name. And at the same time, we should have these sanghas where it's just devotees, where we can really relish kirtan. And that's, I feel like, more similar to our japa. It's like we have this reciprocal relationship between our personal bhajan and our preaching, where they feed each other. And we're servants of a particular parampara where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he introduced the sharing of Krishna consciousness, but for some time in the Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, it kind of took a back seat a little bit. But then, by the grace of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, it kind of revived this. So it's necessary for us to get to connect with that, to get the mercy of our acharyas. And at the same time, if we want to actually reciprocate with the mercy that they're giving, then we have to have a deep spiritual life on our own. So I don't know, that's a long-winded response, but I think that, you know, both are necessary. Do you have anything else to add on that? No? Ram right through.
Why did the Sahajiyas overrun Lord Chaitanya's movement? I know I can't see because you're sitting right here. Back more. You'll be able to see Tulsi and Pandava. So arguably, perhaps the Harinam Sankirtan meant to expand, as Lord Chaitanya prophesied and wanted, to every town and village, slowed down, stopped, wasn't emphasized. So I was thinking, hearing this, that we're in a unique position now as the immediate recipients of Srila Prabhupada's mercy
Mm.
through his incredible manifestation of expanding Lord Chaitanya's movement all over the world, all over the universe, we can't even perceive, that we should feel the onus to keep the Harinam Sankirtan movement in public very, very strong. Because it's the incarnation of the Lord, and wherever the Lord is present, then the demons cannot prosper. Sahajiyism is ultimately demoniac, although in one place Prabhupada gives them a little more credit than the stone-cold Mayavadis, because they're expressing some type of sentiment, albeit mixed in with their carnal, sensual, materialistic desires for Krishna. So maybe one day, in the course of eternity, they'll become purified. So keeping that in mind, and I think there's a distinction between judging, as you made rightly said, that there's different levels of intimacy, or I'll use the word sensitivity, on Krishna's behalf, just like he sensed, who is this? It was actually, he did that so that Lord Shiva could ultimately be brought forth and glorified, and his position can be made exclusive. You and you only can do this. And just, it's very nice to note that Vamsibat Maharashtali, where the actual place where Sarat Purnima Rasa Leela, the first day of Kartik, takes place, is literally just down the lane, like 150 yards away from the Gopishwar Mahadev temple. It's right there. And in Vamsibat Maharashtali, which is being nicely maintained by the followers of the four Kumaras, the Nimbark Sampradaya. Four corners, there's a beautiful marble deity of Gopishwar.
Really beautiful. That deity is amazing.
We were saying the other day how Srila Prabhupada, Hansarupa Prabhu, was saying that he humiliated or shamed or forced everyone into Vrindavan to bring things up to a higher standard. So over the years, that white marble, not a statue, but it's like a, what do you call it?
A relief?
Half. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
It's been there for many, many decades, but now it's always painted and repainted very beautiful.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case 40 years ago. I remember. So when we're doing Harinam Sankirtan in public, everyone, or like 99.9% of everybody, is just really lost, really under the modes of nature. So they're not so much, the people who get a little knowledge, then they become sahajiyas and they think, oh, I know everything, or there'll be ulterior motives. We see that. That's the danger of giving too much, just making Krishna consciousness available in a widespread way, that people will take, what was that pastime, the churning of the milk ocean, that different personalities took it and used it for their own particular purpose. So that risk or tendency is really more or less absent in the widespread in public, because people they're infants, they're helpless. So we really are kind of one-on-one with Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. We're kind of alone. It's kind of, in a sense, like a Gambhira, even in Grand Central Station or Times Square.
It's true.
I was thinking like that. But ultimately, everything comes down to this, is how is the Lord pleased? What does the Lord want? And the devotees are, whatever the situation, going to give it. So we're not at a loss because we don't have actually, we didn't read yesterday at Acharya when Lord Chaitanya came to realize that Lord Nityananda tricked him by telling him the so-called white lie that this is the Yamuna, which is actually the northern side of the Ganges. They flow together, and then the Yamuna comes from the north, so arguably it is the Yamuna, albeit hundreds of miles downstream. Lord Nityananda has tricked me. And Advaita Acharya trying to say, no, it's all right. Wherever you are, that is Vrindavan. And Prabhupada would say that the devotee can create Vrindavan by his pure, empowered preaching anywhere in the world where the Lord desires him to stay. It's not that the devotee creates it. It's already there, and it's manifest and for the Lord's pleasure. But I agree with you that amongst the wider, knowledgeable devotee community, that different sanghas might be more appropriate for our mood. Yeah. It's like the mood of the preacher who's like risking their life day in and day out. He's not going to want to share intimate feelings in Krishna Kirtan, or feel that an appropriate atmosphere is created by neophytes who have, let's say, or demonstrating activities which are not based on that same level of commitment or surrender to the preaching mission. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Maybe say something on what Ramos was saying.
That it's not immediately manifest, or even we might not see it in our small lifespan, but we are expanding Krishna's ability to have unlimited numbers of personalities ultimately join him in his sublime pleasure dance.
Jaya.
So we should keep that in mind, even though it seems like we're like pre-nursery school, pre-kindergarten. And Prabhupada would say that the expert teacher, he can teach on any grade level and feel completely satisfied. Mukunda Maharaj had that realization when he was Michael Grant being taught by Srila Prabhupada the very first steps in how to play the mridanga. Maybe not the Bhāgavatam has similar feelings, training of different devotees who are trying to play the mridanga. In the beginning, can only go bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bong.
Thank you, sir. I like your point, Prabhu, about Gambhira. You can really kind of feel that sometimes that you're alone out there, especially when you're in the subway because everyone's kind of moving one direction. You're sitting there, you're kind of like, you're in this dark, dank, chamber-like place, you know. Actually, I was hearing that the Mahant, or the devotees at Gambhira Mutt, or Radhakanta Mutt, where the Gambhira is, they say that the real Gambhira is underground. Now that room is not, I mean, the building's new, so it can't really be the real Gambhira. It's closed off, but there's a pathway you can go underground. And so, you know, subway's underground, Gambhira underground. And I was also thinking about you're mentioning as Sahajas. I was thinking that we're kind of beautifully protected in ISKCON, or many devotees are, but because there's that distinction that's made. We have Bhagavat Kata and Leela Kata. They're two different things. Bhagavat Kata can be Krishna's Leelas, but they're explained. You know, when one enters into just Leela Kata without sufficient devotional knowledge and training, then they can misunderstand things. But we have Prabhupada's books like Krishna book, you know, you wouldn't believe the stuff that is in Krishna book, or, you know, Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially, you know, Adi Lila 4th chapter, Madhya Lila 8th chapter, Sanatan Shiksha, end of Madhya Lila, and also a lot of Antya Lila. Some really amazing, far out esoteric stuff that Prabhupada writes in there, but he explains it for us. And therefore, he has had devotees distributing the books on the streets to everybody. The Krishna book to everyone. You know, new Chaitanya Charitamrita edition comes out. Put it out on the streets. You know, distribute it. Yeah, yeah. Wow.
And also the Leela Amrita volumes.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And then another thing I was thinking, although I like your point about the Gambhira and I was thinking, but at the same time, there's also like Mahaprabhu, we see in Veda Kirtan pastimes, you know, he's supposed to be in his Antya Lila. Part of his time he's using to perform public Harinam Sankirtan. Part of the time he's in Gambhira like that. So not that you know, we always have that external aspect as well, but then it can take an internal mood, like you were saying.
If we ultimately establish 24-hour kirtan here, then we'll have access to that facility every day.
Jaya.
And in the New York City parks, believe it or not, maybe they'll enforce it if the pendulum swings back right. There's a sound curfew at 10 o'clock.
Uh-huh. So we got to come back to the temple.
Like that, yeah.
I had it's past time, so I don't want to go too late.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about you were saying, Ram Raipu was saying, we're in such a unique, special position right now in the spreading of Lord Chaitanya's movement, where, you know, we've kind of seen, this is from a perspective of a neophyte and youthful devotee who's quite new to the movement, who sees this really heavy external pushing of preaching. And then a lot of these people who are doing so nicely externally preaching were somehow or another they fell victim to Maya because of this lack of internal absorption. And so we hear that the best Goshianandi is a Bhajananandi who preaches.
Yeah.
And so this this effusion
This
of
what?
both the internal and external forms of sadhana and of preaching and of cultivating Krishna consciousness is so important in our movement.
Mm.
And you know, I can't speak from any deep sense of realization, but I can say that when I find myself more deeply absorbed in reading Prabhupada's books or in having attentive rounds or in chanting, you see those results very clearly when you're out preaching or you're leading a kirtan, and more people are becoming attracted because you're focusing more on Krishna. And I think sometimes we're going out and we're preaching, but we're forgetting about why we're preaching. And so we're so fortunate to have so many advanced devotees who have really gone through the whole rigmarole of the external forms of preaching that failed. And really the things that's holding is the process of Harinam Sankirtan and book distribution. So I'm just feeling very grateful to be here in such a nice association to cultivate both of those things simultaneously.
Jaya. Here. Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking, so therefore we have to chant, but it must be informed chanting. We have to know what it is that we're doing also. You can chant and you get benefit, but if you know what you're doing, you get more benefit. Maybe I can just end with this quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. There's a book called Sri Chaitanya's Teachings. And you reminded me of it, so I decided to pull it up. Not so long. He says, the holy name of Krishna means divine sound. It can be compared to a capsule of medicine. The capsule is not the medicine. Externally, one capsule may look like another, but within one capsule there may be a medicine, and within another there may be cyanide, deadly poison. The capsule itself is not the medicine. It is not the sound of Krishna's name that is Krishna. Krishna is within the sound. The holy name must be surcharged with the proper spirit, not any mundane sentiment. The divine sound of the holy name must have its origin beyond the area of misconception or maya. Sound must have its origin in Goloka Vrindavan. The mere physical sound is not the holy name of Krishna. Repeating only the syllables of the holy name is called mayic sound. It has no spiritual essence. The life of the name is absent in offensive chanting. The most important thing in chanting the holy name is the spiritual realization backing the name. That is the real name. A tape recorder can pronounce the holy name of Krishna just like a parrot, but the physical sound is not Krishna. In the background, there must be spiritual truth which is conscious. You cannot capture the holy name of Krishna simply by vibrating the syllables of the holy name with your tongue. Ravana wanted to capture Sita, and he thought he did, but factually he did not even touch her divine body. Ravana caught only a mundane replica of Sita Devi, an imitation which was like a statue of Sita. You cannot vibrate the holy name simply by moving the lips and tongue. The pure name of Krishna is lip deep, not lip deep, but heart deep. Ultimately, it goes beyond the heart and reaches the land of Krishna. When Krishna comes down, the name comes through the heart and moves the lips and tongue. That vibration is the holy name of Krishna. When Krishna, in the form of sound, descends from the transcendental world into the heart, and from the heart, controlling every aspect of the nervous system, comes to the lips and tongue, dancing there, that is Krishna Nam. That sound is not produced from the material plane. The spiritual sound has come down into this plane. He can come down, but we cannot so easily go up there. The holy name is only realized when we approach him with a very intense serving attitude. At that time, Krishna himself may come down by his grace, being attracted by our pure serving nature. Then Krishna can influence this element and produce transcendental sound and dance within the mundane plane. That is the holy name of Krishna, Vaikuntha Nam, the real name of Krishna. We cannot produce it with our lips. The sound we create with our physical or mental production is not Krishna. He is indifferent to whatever sound we may produce. Yet, because he controls everything, he can appear anywhere, in any form, in any place, in any sound. Sri Chaitanya's teaching, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki Jai, Shri Radha Govinda ki Jai, assembled Vaishnavas ki Jai. Boo. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripasiniveva chapatitanam pavanebhi Vaishnavi.